transition was an experience that has impacted me in a lot of ways, because it sounds so simple, but in actuality, it's a lot more complex when you actually put it into practice. Because with transition, you don't just, oh, you leave school and that's it. You have to have it has to be a gradual process that's built up. It can't be just, shoehorned. It needs to have people involved in the planning process. It needs parents, it needs lecturers, it needs support services, and of course it needs the young person at the center of the operation. Because if the young person doesn't feel like they're at the center of the planning process, then how do they expect to make a smooth transition when they don't even feel like they're being listened to?
I'm dad to twin boys who are 22, who have Fragile X syndrome. I think transition is really important because I think with a learning disability, they really need routine, and they need to be in a set routine, and that's how they cope in their day-to-day life. I think transition is therefore important to be planned properly, because it's an area where they would get quite anxious about that something's going to change.
It's not just happening in these neat little boxes. Everything's going on at the same time. So at the same time, I'm dealing with my mental health, I'm dealing with my physical health, I'm dealing with a gender transition, I'm dealing with a move of areas, all these things. And that's life. You don't just have one thing happen to you at a time. People have to remember that while you're going through these transitions and these processes, it's not just one transition, one process, it's everything at once going on.
In transition, it's really important that all the different agencies come together. You've got your social care, you've got your NHS, which was a big part for us. You've got education, obviously the school team. We actually found it didn't join up brilliantly well. It sort of worked more as separate wheels. It was like, well, social work were busy doing their bit and NHS were busy doing their bit, and we were really the bit in the middle that was trying to keep it all and pull it all together, and make sure the left hand knew what the right hand was.
All the time, but in our circumstances it was definitely this wasn't about a process, it was about an individual moving from one stage in their life to the next, and this is the individual here, and we need to make sure he or they were properly supported.
Well, it's partly due to the autism, but I think the secret is it's the fear of not being listened to and the fear of not being taken seriously. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's something that really needs to end.
I think anything that can improve the communication between, in our case, NHS and social work, but actually, in our case, social work and the parents. I personally think it's too huge change in your young person's life that you can just say, oh, I've got this key worker, well, they're doing it all.
In terms of transition, you don't just leave someone in the lurch, you don't throw them in the deep end, and you don't just leave them ditched or abandoned.
Transitions don't just stop between school, between college, and all these things. Transitions happen throughout life in all areas of your life. So although I'm not in education at the moment, and employment isn't something that I can look at the moment either, I still have this ongoing battle of trying to get help, trying to get resources and the equipment and support and things in place.
Probably behind the scenes, my wife and I would be quite worried, anxious, in trying to make sure that they're not worried and anxious, because we can cope with worry and anxiety better than they can, I think.
Anyone who feels as though they're in a background that's diverse, because we should all be treated equally no matter what.